G'day ladies and gents, and welcome back to War Thunder. Today we're going to be having a look at another one of those pesky Swedish tanks. This is the Stridsvagn 74. Look at the damn thing. It's fucking ugly. Maybe I shouldn't be talking about someone's baby like that. But I'll tell you what, this tank is something else. It is kind of weird, honestly. It doesn't really have much mobility. It has bugger all armor. I mean, the mobility's okay, but the armor's terrible. The armor is genuinely awful. You can take this thing out frontally with pretty much any 30 plus millimeter AA in the game. Falcon, mincemeat. Ostwind, mincemeat. M42, Dustarino, mincemeat. This thing is really susceptible to enemy fire. But what happens when you're not facing enemy fire? Well, in that case, you are absolutely insane. You're the Chad of Chads, if you will. That is, if you can hide your giant silhouette, and if you can find somewhere sneaky enough to put you in a spot that'll give you a little bit of an edge on your opponent. It doesn't always work that way though, and oftentimes you will find that the STRV-74 tends to leave you wanting more. There's something crucially missing from the STRV-74, and that is the ability to tussle with your opponents head-on in some sort of brawl engagement. The Swedish tanks don't really work that way, to be honest. I haven't come across a single Swedish tank that works as a brawler. Pretty much nothing. Maybe the meme cannon at low tier, and obviously the British tanks are kind of okay at that, being stabilized and having APDS. However, this thing gets APDS. In fact, it can pen 250 millimeters of armor, which is no joke, really. But to tell the truth, you won't really be using that shell so much. Which raises a slight question. Like, what is the stock grind like? And honestly, the stock grind on this thing, compared to some others, is, not too bad. First kill there on the M18, very nice, very easy kill. It's, APHE, M18, same sort of thing that you'd normally get. Now on this map, this is the Large Sinai map, or Sands of Sinai, or whatever you want to call it. There's a particular spot that I like to do, I like to come from this northern spot. I like to go all the way past the cap and find a little particular hill and sit there and wait for enemy tanks to come across. It works very often at these lower tiers, especially when no one has a laser rangefinder or thermals or APFSDS. It works really well, and I can kind of exploit that to my benefit. I use it all the way basically up to 7.7, 8.0, and you can see that I'm just about to get towards this spot. Once I get there, it's pretty much easy sailing. This particular tank sits at battle rating 5.7, which is the same as the Tiger E. It has more than enough penetration to punch through the armor of the Tiger E. However, you won't really be using the APDS. It's not something that you'll be seeing a lot as well, because as it stands currently, Sweden tends to get put with the Axis a lot more than it tends to get put with the Allies. However, you will see both, and I'll tell you that APDS shell will be nice to go through Panthers when you need it. However, if you can manage to use the APHE shell only, then have a look at that. I didn't even hit the crew compartment, and that Su-122 goes kaboom. There's a chunky little T-34, and I get my commander, I suppose, taken out by what I believe to be a T-25. It's pretty lucky, because this thing is not normally very survivable. It only has 4 crew, and 3 of them are in the turret. If you get shot in that cupola, depending on the round that hits, sometimes you can lose your entire tank. Speaking of losing the entire tank, I'm going to wait for this T-34-85 to pop back into view. Any second now, he'll come out over that ridgeline, maybe not. Maybe he stopped. Okay. Nope. He's continued out and I just didn't see him. Well, goodbye. It can be just as easy as that. And the APHE shell is really, really good for taking out T-34s, particularly T-34s. It just has this sort of knack at taking them out. Speaking of taking them out, I'm going to try and take that IS-2 out, although maybe not from the front, because this particular shell is kind of, I don't know, IS-2s bounce it surprisingly easily. So what I'm going to do is just wait for this IS-2 to peek over the ridge. He will not have the gun depression, and he will not have any of the tools necessary to take me on when I get the drop on him. He'll be out any second because the IS-2 is fairly mobile, and our team has all 3 caps. So if I can just hold on to this spot, which the enemy seems to be pushing a lot of, then I can pretty much secure an easy win. Or at least that's the theory. The A point is one of the hardest to secure, so if I can make that job even harder, that gives my team a really good advantage. It doesn't really go that way, just a little spoiler, but T-34-57, goodbye. The APHE shell is really good, it has really high damage, and this T-34-57 also doesn't stand a chance. Have a look at that, I still managed to take out everything in the crew compartment despite firing at the engine bay. This shell has really, really good post-pen. It's fantastic, actually. A milk truck, do I? It is very, very tempting. But I see something peeking over the ridge, and there's that IS-2. So I'm going to go for the shot and hit the ammunition rack. Have a look at that bounce. What in the world happens in these cases? I genuinely don't know. Well, it's time to take a look at something that I can't really penetrate from the front. This is the T-25, and you might not have thought about it at first, but yeah, I'm struggling to pen it from the front. Time to load the APDS. Unless, of course, you're going to get either taken out before, or you're going to bounce that one too, because I hit the angled part on the T-25, but it's okay, because I've marked him for my team. He gets taken out by a friendly Panther A. Now, Panthers have really, really good guns. I would probably rate that gun higher than this one, to be honest, simply because of the level of penetration at this tier. For 5.7, it is a better gun, but at 6.7, it definitely starts to waver, the Panthers gun, that is. This one, however, is okay at 5.7 and gets a little bit better with up tiers compared to the Panther. How would I rate them? I still think, personally, that the Panther is a better tank. Should this thing go down in battle rating, though? I genuinely have no answer for that. It's something that I'm going to sit on the fence and wait until something happens, have a look, and then take a judgment from there. So far, we have 7 kills, which isn't really that bad. In fact, it's pretty good, but if you don't have map control, then what's the point in having a single kill? So, I'm going to go and try and take over the cap. I'm going to go maybe get the B cap back, and maybe we can pull it back from there, although the team has lost a lot of tanks in this area. Maybe that's partially my fault. Maybe I should have gone and, taken some action earlier. Let me know in the comments if you think I did the right thing by sitting here, or if I did the wrong thing by not acting early enough. So, we're going to get to the final stages in this clip here, where I end up meeting a little bit of a sticky end, and you'll see exactly what happens, but this particular tank really sucks when you come against more than one opponent, and one of those opponents is looking at you. If no one is looking at you, this tank is great. It's good fun. In fact, I would even rate it as fairly decent, but as soon as someone even looks at you, you're toast. Because you have 20 or 30 millimeters of frontal armor, and then you have the same chassis that the Delatorn has. Have a look at what the Dustarino there, or the M19, is going to be able to do to my turret. In some cases, I have had Dusters literally take me out frontally through the turret armor, and there goes a Sherman. So, on to the next sort of few clips. This was a match on Finland where I was basically stock. I had parts, FPE, and one or two other things. And once again, if you're not being looked at, this tank is fantastic. And once you get spotted, it becomes a bit of a nightmare. As you can see in the footage, there's a T-34 that's about to come around this corner, and he's not exactly looking at me. The way the STRV-74 seems to work in theory to me is it must be some sort of rear guard tank or some sort of ambush tank, because for me that seems to line up with the Swedish post-war doctrine and the Swedish doctrine in general of being a neutral ally or something like that. I think I'm applying the right term to the right situation, but again, the idea is that they don't go to war, they don't assault things, they wait for someone to come towards them and then ambush them, much like the S-Tank. Although, I don't know how that ricochets. It definitely baffles me. But the STRV-74, is it a good tank? I'm really on the fence. I'm very on the fence about this tank. It is good in some aspects, and in others it is absolutely abysmal. So make what you will there. It's just one of those tanks that seems to be okay at certain things and absolutely garbage at others, where you really, really want them to be good, such as mobility. Obviously, the mobility isn't, it's not terrible, but it's certainly nothing to write home about. It's okay spaded, but it's not as good as the Delat. It's about as good as the Delat Torn, but with a turret the size of bloody Texas. And Texas is pretty big. On the other hand, it has a fantastic APHE shell and a really, really workable APDS shell once you get the upgrade. Again, I think this upgrade should be a tier 2, not a tier 4, which is what all of the others are. Overall, the STRV-74 is a mixed bag. Sometimes it's pretty good, and sometimes it's pretty bad. It's one of those tanks that's really, really situational, and kind of depends on the map that you get, the team that you get, and the players that you tend to work with. If you have a good set of people that you can work with, then it's a good tank. If it's not, then I'm sorry, but you're gonna have a bad time. Maybe squad up with someone else who's playing, I suppose, America or Germany or something, and see how you go from there. It might be a better tank with friends. You never know. And sometimes you find that is the way with Swedish tanks and Swedish vehicles. They are better together. But ladies and gentlemen, this will do it for today's video. Thank you very much for watching. I sincerely appreciate it. Take care, stay safe, and I'll catch you next time.